world of endless noise, one sound cuts through. GC Radio Hub. Your world, your sound. Imagine your favorite voices following you everywhere. From your smartphone to your car, your smart TV, even your virtual assistant. GC Radio Hub connects you to a universe of content. Check out our wonderful interviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Hart Radio, live music shows and podcasts. All at your fingertips. Android TV, Apple TV, Roku, Fire Stick TV. We're there wherever you are, because the only way to stay connected is to get connected. Download the GC Radio Hub app today and let your world come alive.
Hello, boxing fans and fight fans. Welcome to Coach's Corner. Today we have a very special guest. We have Britton Hart,
Hey, what's up, guys?
female boxer and MMA fighter and bare knuckle boxer. So she's covered the whole spectrum right there.
Yep, and you're undisputed inaugural strawweight bare knuckle boxing champion. So it's been really
Yes.
exciting to become champ in one of those sports. And not
Yeah.
only, just they say you got to defend the belt to be champ, but
Yeah.
undisputed, you have to have 3 wins. And it's really cool to know that I've had 4 title defenses and one of them being out in Dubai across the seas. And someone's,
Okay.
we're in the combat sports world. You don't go into someone's backyard and expect to bring home some gold, but I do, and so that's kind of my legacy, going in others' backyards and becoming a B-side to the A-side story.
Hey, I heard that. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. So,
Yep.
so initially, what got you involved in let's say combat sports period? Like, the boxing, MMA. What drew your attention to that sport, whatever sport, what drew your attention?
Yeah, so I was a mega athlete my whole entire life. I started soccer and
Okay.
I played in college. I got a scholarship for soccer. So I was really good in sports, but I never put boxing gloves on. I never did karate. I never did wrestling or anything like that till I was 26 years old. And
Mm.
unfortunately, it was out of a response to me going to the hospital several
Mm.
times with having an abusive ex-husband.
Okay.
So that's really kind of what started it. And again, it was kind of like a sick joke to go to a boxing gym to kind of get over this issue and
Yeah.
all the snowball negative consequences. And I was really
Mm.
just so lost and broken and rock bottom. Boxing, and when I went to the boxing gym, when you're sparring and fighting a
Yeah.
girl, it was like, I think a lot of the people in the gym at the time thought I was kind of playing them, like, no, you've had to box before. And I was like, well, I was fighting a 185-pound man is way scarier than anything in the ring. And so it
Yeah.
was really
Yeah.
allowed me to like
Yeah.
transition
Mm.
to even my first pro fight. You see some fighters and they're just sweating bullets and so nervous to climb in
Yeah.
the ring. And for me, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's somebody there to like save you and like pull the person off of you if need
Yeah.
be. Oh wow, the bell rings and they stop punching you after 2 minutes. Like
Yeah.
this is a piece of cake. And so it was a really negative reason, but it goes full circle to be like 10 years since I was in that ambulance trip. Now to be world champion and just have done so much healing and positive outreach in the world and really be like, wow, things happen for a reason. It sounds
Yeah.
horrific in the moment, but I never would have been into combat sports if it wasn't for that reason. That's for sure.
So I'm gonna take it back a bit further. So you mentioned soccer, and
Yeah.
this sport is crazy to me because when I was 9, I tried soccer, and the first time I tried it, I got kicked in the foot, and this guy broke my toe. So I was done. But so how was the running and all that? How was soccer for you? How did you get involved in soccer?
Yeah, I think
It's
it
an
probably
amazing sport.
it is. And honestly, I think that's again, it's wild. Like all my superpowers that I have in the ring today aren't
Yeah.
anything that like came from me being in combat sports. They
Yeah.
came from other areas. And it's so crazy to me because they're so integrated into me that I couldn't stop doing it if I wanted. But everyone says, oh wow, Britain always has a gas tank. Britain has cardio for days. I really know how to run my hands. And it really did come from soccer because
Yeah.
soccer, I mean, check this out. Before our warm up for
Yeah.
soccer
Yeah.
practice, was a 3 mile run, like as a
Ooh.
warm up. And people like look at 3 mile run as like a whole activity, a whole
Yeah.
freaking a workout. And that was literally our warm up. So running 3 miles every day was like nothing to me. And I played center mid, which was like the essentially the highest running, hardest position that you can play in soccer, being that you have to run offensively and defensively and be like the quarterback of the team. So I was always really, really running, but I got into it because probably my dad was huge into sports, and he probably
Mm,
passed that down to me.
yeah.
He play not only did he play every sport, but when his, even as his older years, he would find a way to still participate in it, whether it was like being a baseball umpire, being a lacrosse referee, being a soccer referee, being a he was a wrestling referee or official.
Mm,
Like
mm,
he worked in every single sport really
yeah.
possible. And so for me, we always did that together, and I was very much a tom boy
Yeah.
girl growing up. I was, definitely always, my mother was always very upset with me and my not ladylike manners, and my dad always kind of like instigated it and antagonized it, and
Mm,
so it was great. But yeah, soccer was, I grew up, my parents were both in the military, so
yeah.
I also grew up with that type of love language. Like if it hurts, go walk it off or rub dirt in it. And if you want something to cry about, we'll give you something to cry about. So,
Yeah.
that was in Germany where my dad was stationed. I lived there for 5 years, and Germany, it's so different over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And soccer was really like the blood of like just youth to activity and what you do. And so I played soccer over there. There wasn't any girls or boys. It was never anything like that. That was really confusing to me when I moved to the United States, because
Yeah.
we always did co-ed sports, and then move into the United States, it was like, oh, the girls stay on the girls team, boys stay on the boys team. And for me, I was like, well, the girls really are kind of like not that, they didn't like me at first, that's for sure.
That's what, yeah. You were probably more advanced than they were.
Yeah, and
So
I was tough and rough,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
they were, but that's what soccer is. Soccer is a tough sport, and I was all about it. Like I love the slide tackles. I did bicycle kicks. I've had so many, just as many epic moments in
yeah.
soccer that I have boxing and bare knuckle boxing.
So when you mentioned, I'm just curious, the running part of it. Did you when you ran the 3 miles, was it like you had to run about at a certain time or make a certain time, or they let you do your own thing and run at the pace that you ran it at?
Because soccer was a team sport, it was
Yeah.
very much we did it as a team. We were really strong. It taught me strong character things that that you win together, you lose together, and you're as good as your weakest link. So I think our coaches got really upset if we left somebody behind us. Um, but we did like run different drills and different stuff like that all the
Mm,
time, and it would be sprints and stuff like that. But the 3 mile warm up was through like it was like a cross country course through the
okay.
woods, and it had
Yeah.
hills and stuff. And we would do it as a team. And every once in a while, if we didn't do it as a team, our coaches would make it do it called like Indian style, where the
Yeah.
person in the back has to sprint to the beginning,
Yeah.
and we had to keep that formation the whole time. So yeah, it was never at our own pace. We definitely had to be as a team.
So how long do you think a 3 mile run with the whole team? How long would that take? You think approximately on average?
Due to being like the weakest link on the team, I would say probably like 28, 30 minutes. But, that would be in the beginning, and at the
Yeah.
end of the season, even if you are the weakest link and a slower person, if you do that run every day, eventually your body's going to adapt, and you
Yes.
have we're talking about varsity sports too. Like it's not participation trophy, and we were, thank God, at a level in my high school where you had to try out for the team. And if you couldn't do a 3 mile run in under 30 minutes, you probably just weren't made for soccer. And so
Mm,
you would get booted off the team. So thank God. I know there's some schools that were like just desperate to have anybody, and that everybody made the team. But you had to
yeah.
try out for this team, and you had to be like, athletic and good to make
Yeah.
it. So it was varsity. But I did cross country to the fastest I've run. That 3 mile
Mm,
is in 20 minutes, but
yeah.
that's really really booking it. But I would say just being as a team, And in the aspect that this is just a warm up, it's not a race.
Yeah.
Probably like a race time would be like 25, 26 minutes for a team to
Okay.
do that.
Right.
But we're doing it as a warm up. You know, we're still girls at the end of the day, so we're probably chit chatting and talking where no one can see us in the woods. So I would say like yeah, like a 30-minute warm up.
Okay. That's not bad. 10 minute mile. Yeah. 10-minute mile.
Yeah,
Okay.
and our practices were 3 hours back in the,
Oof.
like, so we
Seriously?
had
Oof.
yeah, Monday through Friday, three
Oof.
hours, 3 to
Wow.
6 p.m. every day.
Yeah, and no one got, were there like injuries, they'll come up in practice or no? Were you guys pretty,
There were some here and there, but it
yeah,
wasn't it was, that's natural, like, and more so it wasn't really in practice, but the games, like, a lot of people would get, I think a girl broke her collarbone from a collision and twisted ankles. You got shin splints, little things like that. But I don't remember, very rarely was there an injury where someone had to like sit out.
so your father was in the military, correct?
Yep.
So
And my mother.
okay, so since you're military family, so were you guys stationed over in Germany for a while?
Yep, 5 years, and then we were in Turkey for three, and
Ooh, so
and yeah,
how you like Germany?
I loved it. I was a kid. I was like 5 to 10 years old.
That's not okay.
So, but you think when you think of kids, you see that age now, like that's like when their personality is shaping the most. That's when
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
absorbing and really becoming who they are. By the time they're 10, newsflash to you parents out there, once your child turns 10 or 11, 12, you're not changing them. Their personality's set. So if you have a 6 and 7 year old that's a brat or just like uncontrollable, there's your time to fix it, because if you get to 10, you're a lost cause. It's way
Absolutely.
harder. But
Yeah. So did you enjoy your time in Germany? I mean, you made good friends and stuff like that?
yeah, I loved it. I don't have anything bad to say about it.
Yeah.
It was really, I lived off base. I lived in an apartment above a grocery store. I lived across a park. My landlords had like a rainbow trout farm that I
Mm,
remember going to. We went to castles. Like, it's kind of, you don't know what you have until, like, we all do that. We underappreciate things. But like now, if you hear people like to go see a castle, they'd be like, wow, that's so cool. And to me, like, we saw castles all the
yeah.
time. Like,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
probably been to like 20 castles in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But I was, as a kid, but that was really cool. Yeah, no, it was all beautiful. I remember Christmas being glorious. If I had to compare it to the States, I feel like, it was way more magical,
Mm,
in its landscape and
yeah.
in its way of being. The way people celebrate holidays over in Germany
Hmm.
is just so incredible and amazing. And you probably find that in the United States, but it's very nichey. It's not like
Yeah.
overall, like small towns and areas have certain things that they really get into the holidays. But I think as a whole, we don't do a great job of realizing how important the holidays are to bring us
Yes.
together. And I feel like in Germany, they really got that. Like if it
Yeah.
was Christmas, you were reminded of it every single place you went.
Mm,
If it was Halloween, you were reminded of it every single place you went. Like
yeah.
we really, that's the biggest thing I can remember from those places. And so it carries in like me and my family. And I
Yeah.
tell everyone today, like I get really bummed out and sad at the holidays because nobody does anything, and
Right.
it's sad and depressing in so many reasons and aspects, because where just, but you don't have to be a child to love and enjoy
Yeah.
Easter and do Easter baskets and remember, like, even if you wanted to make it about spring, if you want to make it about Christianity, you don't have to make it about one thing, but there are so many things that you could focus on that are childlike and grown up like as
Yeah.
well. And so I wish more adults kind of took that mindset to
Yeah.
be closer at the holidays with even like strangers.
Yeah. We know, unfortunately, a lot of people, not only in America but from different states, they don't have a chance to travel and see the world, so they don't get a chance to see how other people live and how you know maybe like you said how we celebrate Christmas compared to how they celebrate it in Germany, Russia or Cuba, wherever. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't get the chance from this country to go see other parts and learn, the ways of other countries. Which, so like you said, that would be great because I was blessed to go all over the world as a boxer, so I got a chance to see that. And you're right, the other country they celebrate it way more than they do here, which is unfortunate because your kids think they're having a great time here, but their mind would be blown if they went to another country and saw how they celebrate Christmas.
Right.
So,
Yep. So I even say that. I even remember one awesome, like, I haven't put it in emotion yet, but I used to tell my family, like, for every year for Christmas, instead of buying presents for each other, we should choose one place that we've never been to,
yeah,
and go there as an experience for the holidays, and experience what a different place or location would look like. And everyone really loved, we haven't really done that, but we do try to do it in like little places, like me and my son, we went to Puerto Rico for
hmm,
Easter one year, and he had like a blast over there. And man, talk about like seeing somebody grow. You could
yeah,
literally see it, you could
yeah,
watch it. And so
yeah,
I try to tell everyone, like, man, it's so important. There's nothing wrong with growing up in a small town and being from a small town, but just to go just a couple places, just to see, just to know, it's
yeah.
so growing in so many ways.
No, you're right. No, and that's I tell everybody. If you get a chance in life to get out of this country and go visit another country, go. Just see what life is in the world, some other place in America. You might be surprised how you feel about it.
Yep, absolutely.
So you said from Germany, you went to Turkey and lived for like 3 years.
Well, it was flip flop,
I'm sorry.
Turkey
I'm
first
sorry.
and then
Yes. Oh,
Germany.
okay. So you're younger. Okay. So
Yeah, so
you
I don't
know.
remember it as
Okay.
much.
So that's cool. Okay, that's cool. But listen, that's still amazing to be in Turkey. So trust me. So
Right.
was your father based there or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I understand that. Okay. So you've done that. So how did you get involved in contact sports? Period. What was your first one?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Contact sports. But which was your first one that you got involved in? Was boxing, the MMA,
Uh,
or?
oh yeah, yes. Boxing. Yep. I went to a boxing gym. I was, like I said, I was 26. It was kind of a weird moment. And I never fought with gloves on before, but I
Right.
definitely had my fair share of bare knuckle. And then I turned pro 4 months after. Everyone was like, whoa, like they thought they like, you're really good. You could like change the way people view women in boxing. Again, being in Virginia, it's boxing is so much bigger in other places, and it
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
a better stable on it than what I really thought. But when I started in Virginia, there wasn't girls boxing. You didn't hear about it. Like, it was very like only in New York, California, maybe like Florida, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, you didn't hear about women really fighting. And so they were really like, you could change the world of women boxing. And whether they were lying and blowing my head up, it didn't matter because I believed it. And it made me turn pro 4 months later. So I never had any amateur boxing or
Yeah.
anything like that. I wasn't in the boxing gym for a very long time.
Mm.
Literally, including my fight camp. Like, I'd only spent 4 months with boxing training before my
Mm.
first professional fight. But my professional, I was a second round knockout in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was, fairly easy, I would say, for me.
Mm.
But the thing about it that made me really fall in love with it was, you got to think, a girl who's really broken, does not know what love is in any shape or form, or fully support, or have anything positive coming her way. At the
Mm.
end of the fight, I really could care less. I just, I was trying to escape reality. I hated the real world, and just
Mm.
any type of adrenaline rush or high or pain that made me forget about my real life was, sign me up. And I needed money, and so I
Yes.
didn't really care. But afterwards, that's really where my like whole world changed. Because all these people, they don't know me. They're coming up and they're like, "Oh my God, you did so good. You're so tough. You're such a badass. Can I take a picture?" And give me hugs. Can I take a picture? And I was just like in shock. Like, again, very new to this, never did it before. And I played soccer my whole life and was like a superstar in soccer.
Yeah.
And nobody ever asked to take my picture. I was, again, like, really the best that you could be, MVP. And nobody asked to take my picture in soccer. And so here it is, my first boxing match that was relatively, again, easy. and I'm just drowning in reality. Like I literally want to drown and not wake up the next day. And there's
Mm.
these people that think I'm so amazing and cool that they would want to take a picture with me. What? And so that's when I was like, "Oh my god, I'm supposed to be here. This is why. Like there nothing is by coincidence. This is my fate." Like that quote, like I listen to motivational speaking and all that
Yeah.
stuff. All I've done that my whole life. It's not like being a fighter changed it. That was already in me. But I remember always hearing like this quote or a special thing that someone says that there's the two most important dates of your life. One is the day you were born, because that's when you grace the world with your presence,
Yeah.
and everybody, so anyone who's listening to this, your birthday is super special, and you should never say that it's just another day. And then the second most important day is the day you find out why you were born. And for me, it was that was the day, man, like to a T. Like there is no other, like it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. If I could go back to that moment, I literally, like, in every aspect in my mind, body, soul, and spirit was
Hmm.
like, this is why you were made, this is why you were born, this is who you are. And it really has truly been a never look back moment. Like that was in October 2016. I immediately took another fight in November, and then I
Nice.
started fighting the best. I started fighting Alicia Baumgartner, Ingram
Yeah.
Kerwa, Jamie Mitchell, Sharetta Metcalf. And I was just like, man, I'm going to make it in boxing. I'm going to, nobody cares who I am because I'm the small town nobody girl. But if I beat somebody big, they'll have to know who I am. So that was really my target. And I would step in and take these fights. Everyone would be like, you're an idiot and you're so stupid, to take a 4-day notice fight, 2 weeks notice. But I did because I knew how important it was to be seen on a big stage,
Mm.
and be compared to somebody when so many of us are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
How can you possibly break away by doing it the slow and steady way? And that's a really great thing to do for kids and youth coming up. Like, don't rush going into the pros, but
Yeah. No.
for people who are later, like, yeah, it's never too late, but man, there's a sacrifice that comes with it and you have to
Yeah.
pay it. And
Yeah.
so I paid mine, and it opened so many amazing doors. There were so many fights that I didn't win on paper, but I won either in the eyes of the people watching,
Mm.
I won in my own self, or I won from people coming up to me and like, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
And I met Roy Jones Jr. had me come down to his house down in Pensacola and be a training partner for one of his girls. And so I got
Mm.
one-on-one time with him, and I would
Okay.
consider him a friend and family. And I
Yeah.
know he would consider that of me. And that's been an amazing thing. Me and Conor McGregor are
Mm.
awesome real friends. That's to me a real thing. It's really led me to some amazing inspirational people. I've had the best sparring partners. I've trained with Olympic fighters like Christina Cruz and out in Vegas, and just everybody under the sun. And they've all been such amazing bright lights in my own journey that I was able to like really get that and move at a faster pace. So now it's like what, 10 years in the sport, and I mean 10 like solid years. The last 3 years have been good too, but being the champ, they don't tell you that it gets you do think it gets easier, but
Mm-hmm.
they definitely don't fight you as much. But I haven't been so, I mean, I definitely am sad about it, but I've been so busy and a hustler that I don't really notice that I don't fight as much,
Yeah.
because I pushed myself so much that now I have these meet and greets, podcasts. I try to get into movies and be like a stunt fighter,
Yeah.
or just like fighter roles and things like that. And
Yes.
motivational speaking, and it's
Mm.
just been, but boxing was where it started, and boxing is really what I fell in love with. Bare knuckle boxing was weird because it got legalized in 2018.
Yeah.
So I've only been boxing for 2 years, and they reached out to me, and I was like, oh, that's cool, but no, thank you. And then they kept reaching out, and then they offered me the main event. A main event as a woman against this UFC fighter, and like so many eyes were on it, and I was like, damn, I don't know. I was like, this could be it. And then I'm like, bare knuckle again. It can't be any worse than, being punched by a grown man. Like, I took that. So, all right, let's do it because maybe I'll get the money to move to California and really start over. And so I did the bare knuckle fight kind of as a
Yeah,
means to an end, but man, did it unlock a whole other door. And,
yeah,
to do bare knuckle, you truly have to be fearless. And we all think that fighters are fearless, and,
yeah,
they're not. They make it look good, and, they
yeah,
fake it to make it. But just because you're faking it till you make it doesn't truly make you fearless. You're just
yeah.
pretending to be. And a lot of boxers have that, or I've noticed too in this journey, a lot of boxers come from families that it was just like kind of pushed into them, like their dad, their uncle, or someone boxed, and so they
Yeah.
got into it. And you kind of come robotic, and you forget the passion. You do the same thing every day. You kind of lose the will of like wanting to perfect it or be better at it or something that's exciting. And
Yeah.
then you have the fear of letting down your family, and there's other like not just being like the fear of being punched or
Yeah.
something like that. But I think that a lot of boxers, I see them, they do have a lot of fear, and that's normal for all human beings,
Yeah.
to experience that. But for me, for someone who like literally lost every single thing that they loved and worked so hard for and was their whole entire world in life,
Yeah.
like what else can you really fear after that? And so bare knuckle really opened the door to that. And because people could see it, and it was natural and it was real, it was like people knew me to just be like, wow, that girl will really die in there. And there's not a lot of people that really have that mentality and thinking wise. And so I think that people really saw me there more so than boxing. Like, and boxing, I think people like and are impressed with me, but
Hmm.
it's not that wow factor that bare knuckle brings. And I wasn't expecting that because again, a lot of these things were just my life. I don't have to try at them. Like, there's a lot more worse things in my life than having my face punched, and so of course, I don't want that, and I want to be the best, and I want to win, and I don't want to
Yeah.
have any damage. But the fear of it is gone. So it's kind of like when people watch that Batman movie, and he has the rope tied around his waist, and he jumps, and every time he falls short, and then the one moment he takes the rope off, and he's like, "All right, it's either I do this or I die," and he makes that jump. It was kind of like the best way I can describe how I am in combat sports.
Yeah.
And so bare knuckle happened, and then I was like, oh man. And I remember so many times in bare knuckle boxing, I was like, that's it, I'm done. Like, I'm so over this. And then something huge happens. I mean, not little, huge,
Yeah.
to where it's like, again, no, this is where you belong. This is who you are, and everything led you to this. And it seems when I stray away from that, things get murky. So when I stay on that, it feels really, I feel like I'm where I need to be. So, bare knuckle is, it's not, I don't want to say that I love it better than anything,
Yeah.
but I do love the people, and I love what bare knuckle can do for
Mhm.
others. And I really try to be like preach that, and get sad with like sometimes how promotions and companies and organizations change,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
the sign of the times, with sociological things, with economic standards. But I still think bare knuckle has something better and different and more special than any other sport out there, where we
Mm.
can really see through all the bullshit, and for
Mm.
just a brief moment you can see what someone really has and how far they're willing to go. And
Yeah.
if me and my peers have to be like, basically I literally fighting for a better life,
Mm.
so many people can watch it. And I hope they find strength in that. Like, man, like I'm gonna go and be the best teacher, the best, hairstylist or
Mm.
barber or dog walker, because anything of like that is being better than getting your teeth knocked out and blood and having to do
Yeah,
that. So here's this new healthy perspective on life. Let me go and do it and be inspired by it every day.
yeah,
So
yeah. So I was gonna ask you the three, which one you enjoy the most, but I would say bare knuckle boxing is the one that you enjoy the most.
yeah, when it comes to the fans and the people, it's just it's different. I've never, it would break my heart to ever lose those people.
Yeah.
Um, and people come and go, but there's a few people, maybe more than a few even in the BKFC world that
Hmm.
I really, and it sounds crazy, but I couldn't imagine my life without them or not seeing them or knowing them. And man, like that's wild that a sport did that for
Yeah.
me. And I love that aspect of it. And if I went anywhere else, maybe I wouldn't see those people as much or be
Yeah.
around them. And it's not, that's why I stay. It really is.
So, so let's say compared to professional boxing, your first bare knuckle boxing match, did you have butterflies? Were you tense? How did you feel before that fight as opposed
But
to a boxing match?
The bare knuckle one, I was definitely more nervous because it was a main event and
Mm.
I quit my job for it. And they say
Yeah.
you shouldn't put all your eggs
Eggs
in
in
one
one basket.
basket. But I did, and I was like, dude, if I'm gonna be this main event and everyone's gonna be watching it on pay-per-view, why are these other girls beating me and doing better than me? It's because they don't have to work. They're not living in poverty. They're not this and that. They focus on just training. They wake up, train, get lunch, go sit by the pool, train again, get a massage, get this, get that. Like that's why they're winning. And I'm like, well, if that's what they're doing and that's why they're beating me, then I need to find out how to
Mm.
copy that at least for a little bit, no matter how it takes. So I
Yeah.
quit my job and I, thank God, like, was very smart and resourceful on how to make those things work out. But I did definitely put all my eggs in one basket, and I remember thinking like I really had to tap into like some mental stuff for sure. And it's funny because I do remember saying this story a lot. I haven't told people in a while and kind of forgot it, but I was hardcore on the Hunger Games. Like I watched the movies, I read the books, blah blah blah. I'm very, very hardcore on the Hunger Games. And I remember for 6 weeks straight, every day, like being like, all right, this girl's from District 2. She's literally been bred and trained, and they like whip her with like, thorns to make sure she's battle ready. Like all
Mm.
she knows is that she's gonna fucking kill you, Britain. And you're this District 12 girl. You're poor, freaking digging through the mud and pigsties and food banks and begging for food,
Yeah.
but you have something in you that's super special. And I just kept telling myself that every single day because I was training, I was running through the cow pastures, I was living out in the country. My boxing gym was the YMCA at the time.
Mm.
I had my friends help me spar, and my coach at the time had dropped out, so that was it. And I didn't care. I was like, "Don't worry, you're just 12th district. That's all this is. That's all
Mm.
this is. 12th district," and she won. So go in there,
Mm.
and I know that a couple people that had told me how to beat this girl. They were like, you have to move, you have to be on your bike, you cannot stand in front of her. And I remember just constantly saying that this girl has like knives in her hands, and if I'm gonna stand in front of there, like I'm gonna die. And so I don't want to die, so
Mm.
I better move. So I went hardcore. Like I went
Yeah.
very, very hardcore in my first bare knuckle fight. I've definitely eased up and now, so it's kind of funny. But I was like really serious about it, which is
Yeah.
funny because if you watch back that fight, I think a lot of people are like, yo, Britt, whoa. One, the transformation and evolution of you is so amazing and sick to see. But what the hell were you thinking? Like you could see, like even the commentator is like, why is her feet so happy? Like
Mm.
I was really like, I mean, I wasn't, again, I'm a fearless person. I don't give a shit if that girl has knives, But in the instance, I'm telling myself that this isn't any fight. You better, like, if you want to win, this girl has knives in your hands. And I remember like constantly thinking that, like, how would I beat somebody that has knives in their hands, you know? And so it came out a little bit like jumpy and jerky in my ring presence. But, you know, again, it was a split decision. I really think that I won. Everybody there thought I won. Yeah, did I look, you know, was I jittery? Yeah, but being jittery looking doesn't lose you the fights. I hit her
Yeah.
more. I, you know, was the aggressor in that aspect and blah, blah, blah. But whatever. You know, it's still, you know, that's why we love sports because we love
Yeah.
the controversy and we love to argue and talk about it. But that fight, you know, was out there and thank God. Let's, you know, fast forward. I got the rematch and I beat that chick every single round, hands down, like wasn't even competitive. So,
Mm.
how cool to go from your first bare knuckle fight
Yeah.
as a split decision and be so wiry to your, I think that like maybe 6 or 7 fights later, we had the
Mhm.
rematch. And I was just like, man, it was like one combination I had to throw, and I beat this girl and didn't even get touched.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Hey. Well, did you ever think in the back of your mind that was someone that you would love to have fought again and eventually got a chance to get to fight her again?
Y-
The Rawlings kid.
yeah. So that was cool. It was a really
Yeah.
nice, yeah, it was really cool. So one of my, you know, I do have a few rematches under my belt, but that one is definitely the most like feels the best,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I don't think she felt the same way you felt, but you know.
No, no, most definitely not.
Yeah.
We're still strong enemies, so.
Yeah. So in your third fight, you won your first bare knuckle fight. I mean, so let me ask you a question. So when you start boxing bare knuckle and you would get hit, you say, damn. Would you say, when you got hit, like, because there's no padding in the glove. You're just using your knuckles. You know,
Right.
yeah, did you feel like, okay, let me bear down and get in their ass before, I get hurt myself? 'Cause-
Oh, well, I remember that. I do remember being scared, and you can even see it again. It's definitely if you watch the fight, you will see the
yeah,
moment. I was worried about it, but again, I've been hit by a bare fist before,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
it's not
yeah.
the. But still, you know it's coming, right? And I remember the first time she hit me bare knuckle legally. I remember being like, "Oh, it's not that bad. Like it's relatively the same." Like, you know,
Yeah,
your adrenaline's up, like it
yeah.
didn't really hurt. I definitely think that differently now, and maybe I don't know if I like the success or like my real life being better has like softened me. I don't
Mm.
know, maybe I'm getting older, but no, my last few fights, those bitches hurt. Oh man, like they hurt. But my
Yeah,
first, it took a long time for them to hurt. Like I would say my first 5 bare knuckle fights, I was
yeah,
like, oh man, I don't feel anything. Like, oh, I'm a monster. I'm like, that shit's cake, you know, it doesn't really hurt that bad. And then it slowly started to change. But
yeah,
it didn't, it took a few fights for sure for me to really think that they hurt, to be bothered by it, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I would be cut up, broken nose, you know, even with that Page fight. I knew that girl broke my tooth. It wasn't that I, you know, necessarily didn't feel it or it didn't hurt, but I was able to really block off pain. And so when she hit me in the mouth, I felt my front tooth snap, and
Mm.
I was like, I remember being like, "Damn it!" That was the one thing I didn't want to happen. Like, I just don't want to lose my teeth, and I pushed it back in because it broke. It popped my mouthpiece out, so I
Mm-hmm.
just pushed my mouthpiece on and was like, let's hurry up and get this done. And at the time, I didn't really think that was such a cool, great thing. I just did it, you know, naturally. And everyone was like, oh my God, Britton, what the hell? Like, you just pushed, you like acted like it was nothing. You just pushed it back in and kept going like nothing. And I was like, yeah, I did do that, didn't I? But at
Mm.
but that was the I'm a feeling fight. And so at the end, you know, going through it, like put the mic in front of my mouth. My Not only was this teeth broken, but these 4 were knocked out too.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yes.
so man, that was a weird speech. And even at the press conference, you know, when the adrenaline wears off, I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I was like, oh my God, it hurts so bad.
yeah,
And I don't know. It goes back to that picture. I'd be like, oh, I'm in so much pain. And someone would be like, can I get a selfie? And I'd be like, yeah, yeah. and then smile, and then they'd walk off, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I don't know. Does anyone have
Yeah,
medicine?"
yeah, yeah. Woo. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's crazy. So I'm just curious. Was there in, let's say, in bare knuckle boxing, is there any female that you would love to fight that you haven't had a chance to fight yet?
I think that it's in the works right now, but this, I think, this, she goes by the doctor, but her name's Sarah Shell, and she, I guess, is a doctor. But
Yeah,
I definitely want to fight her. Like, I feel like even, is the principle and the point of the fact. Like, I really want to fight that girl. Other than that, there are a couple people that are annoying to me that are on the roster that I
yeah,
would love to just go ahead and just be like, all right, like, because you dare mention my name, I just want to hurry up and fight you. And so you just
yeah, yeah.
understand, what type of level we're on. But, a lot of people are like, dude, come on, Britton. Y- I think I still take things, a little bit too personal, and
Mm,
it's like, look at your resumes and this and that. But, again, I come from look who I was. Look at my story. I was, and it wasn't anybody when I was calling out these people, and
mm,
I felt like I was better than them, and I was better than them, and I
yeah,
beat them. So if any girl, I don't care if she just started or she only has two fights, if she thinks she's better than me and really thinks that, like, dude, like, I want to, like, do you really want to check that off? Like, let's see. And so I get upset about it, like, in that aspect. But Sarah Shell, I definitely want to fight and know that that's, I've been holding out for that. So
yeah.
hopefully we'll have fight announcement news on that really soon. I
Mm,
thought for sure we would be fighting in February. So the fact that it's like
yeah.
May now is crazy. But other than that, no, I don't. The sad part in being a fighter, a lot of people don't mind it, but for me, I do. I again tell you, they're like friends and family. Every time I see them, it's like a high school reunion,
Mm,
and this and that and the third. And I don't like. I've grown really. There's not a lot of us, and so even the few, even like if there's 20, like 20 people really still isn't a lot. And
yeah.
I'm friends with them, and so a lot of them I have become friends with. A lot of people I already fought. I feel like we already fought once, and I don't feel like any rematch
Mm,
is needed or out there. So I'm friends with them, and I don't want to fight. I have no interest in fighting my friends or hurting them.
yeah.
Now if they came to me and said, like, I get it. Like, we need to eat, and this is our job and what puts food and provides for a family, and or even like just ego wise. Like, look, Britt, you're the best. You have the belt. You're the best. You're at the top of the game, and I want to see how I measure up to you. Will you please accept this fight with me? I would look at
Mm,
it totally different. But
mm,
other than that, I don't want to. I have no interest in that. I want to fight people that I dislike, that's awesome because that makes it really easy for me. And then I want to fight people that are also like, would be considered the best. I've kind of cleared
mm,
out my division, but I can still go to 125. Christine Ferrer is still there. I fought her twice, and each time was significantly better. And the last fight was very
mm,
close. The judges had it, 3-2. So it's not like she beat me every fucking round. And she's just way bigger. And again, it's one of those things we become. I felt like we were friendly, and now I honestly think that we're like friends, family. Like, there are parts of each other that I'm sure we still hate each other and
mm,
like arch enemies, but I feel like it's come a time that no, like, a 125 belt is hers, Queen of Violence. She worked hard for it and she deserves it. I'm 115. I worked hard for it and I deserve it. Like, why do we have to clash? But
yeah.
there's a piece of me that would want to grow, as I'm sure there's a piece of her that would want to grow for her to be
Yeah.
135, 145. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish she would just make it easy for me and just fucking retire and give up the belt so I can just have so I can just have it. But man, it's like, it's like, well, Britain, you never got the easy road anywhere else in your life. Like, damn. why
Yeah.
start now? But then
Yeah.
again, I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Like, just get, can you just like understand this one thing? Like, I'm not asking for a lot. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
vacate it. Just vacate it. I'll earn it, but come on.
Yeah. No, no, I hear you, but yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I like that. So, question for you, just I'm just out of curiosity. I don't- you know I've seen a few bare knuckle fights in my lifetime, but I'm not a big fan of it because you guys, you know, with those knuckles, you guys get cut and busted up quickly. And so I just
Right.
think that's a sport I would never do. You know, people say, you know, boxing takes a lot of guts, but to me, bare knuckle takes a lot because it's like a street fight. Street fight, I don't care about because if I'm pulled into one, I got to do what I got to do. But
Right.
you know, you got to get paid for this. So my question is, if you know, what's the biggest purse a bare knuckle fighter, female or male, has ever gotten that you know of?
That I know of, I know one fighter for sure got
Mhm.
$600,000.
Okay, okay.
So I think I've heard like rumors of other people getting more money, but as
Mhm.
far as like for a fact, I know
Yeah.
for a fact somebody got 600,000. And then I know a few people that got 250.
Mm.
um and then I know a few people that got 100, but other than that, that's like the few, like probably 10 people.
Mm.
So again, it's kind of like boxing, like in UFC, the paydays are still fairly kind of low. But if you really got to work to be somebody, or
Mm.
be somebody, like you have to have some other little niche, and then they'll pay you, it seems like, more money. So I'm
Yeah,
like, juice.
yeah. So what's the say a title fight? What's the average purse for a title fight for a decent fighter? Now, not a superstar, but just you know, just a good fighter.
Well, I heard they told me it was general knowledge that it was capped out at 20 grand. So 20 grand for is what all the champions make.
Okay.
But I also am not sure if that's true, because I've seen title fights for way less, and I've seen title fights
Yeah,
for
yeah,
more.
yeah.
But
So when you guys fight, I think we just scheduled for 5 or 6 rounds for just for a regular fight.
well, that's like the cool thing that I used to preach about bare knuckle, but again, sign of the times. I don't know why they're changing it. So stupid. But when they first started off, it didn't matter who you were, man, woman, debut, seasoned vet, championship fight. They were all 5 2-minute rounds. And I
Mm.
love that. I love that so much, because it was like, you find in boxing that, oh, if it was a 10 rounder, if it was a 12 rounder, if it went one more round, oh,
Yeah,
women suck because they fight 2-minute rounds and men fight 3-minute rounds, blah blah blah. It's all this different stuff in gray area, right? And when
yeah,
you have something that it doesn't matter, like all of us walk into it, no matter who you are, you were walking into that circle knowing I have 5 2-minute rounds to get the job done, whatever the job is. And I love that. Like, I thought that was so super freaking cool that Bare Knuckle does that. And then other organizations would be like, well, no, the title fights are 7 rounds. And again, we all can relate to what a street fight is. And yes, Bare Knuckle is very much like street fight. Like, street fights don't really last that long. They really don't. They're
yeah.
like 2 or 3 minutes. And guess what? They're entertaining. They're gory. Someone's nose is broken. It sucks. Could you imagine going into 5 street fights in the same night? Like, why do we need 7 rounds? Why does anybody need to do that? 10 minutes of bare knuckle, fist on fist violence is more than entertaining, and
Yeah,
than enough for any person out there watching or participating. So,
yeah.
anyways, I'm like super in love with this concept and idea that bare knuckle has brought in. But now there's like some weird things, like the debuters and the new guys, they're only fighting 3 2-minute rounds
Mm.
now, which is, I like don't know when, why, or how that
Yeah,
happened. But
yeah.
lately I've been going to fights and they're like, yeah, this is only a 3 rounder. So I guess they're trying to like not have because it is scary.
Well,
you know
somebody
what?
probably cried about that. You know, they probably cut it down because somebody probably cried about that and said, you know, the beginners are going too many rounds, let's cut their rounds down, make the fight even, something like, because they always got to come up with something to,
Oh,
you know,
dumb. They should have kept it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's the coolest. I mean, 10 minutes. Dude, I base a lot of my training every day that I experience something hard. Like any day, actually, any day and time that I experience something hard, I'm like,
mhm.
dude, you just have to be able to do 10 minutes. Like, can you do 10 minutes? And then it really like, yes, you can do 10 minutes. Whether like think about it, any challenging hard thing,
Yes.
if you tell your brain, man, all I have to do is 10 minutes, you can do it. Like
And
mind
you get
over.
a break. So in between, you get
And you
a minute
get a
rest. Yeah.
yes. So you're talking 15 minutes. So can you do something hard 15 minutes with a 5 minute break? And yeah, let's go, people. We can do this. And if you want to be a fighter, I don't believe, but again, I've never had a soft landing, so I don't believe in soft landings, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, I just think it's cool because it just like everybody knows. It just alleviates anything to be like bicker about or be like, well, you don't know what it's like to fight a 5 rounder, you know? So, but anyways, yes. So the 5 2 minute rounds,
Mhm.
and they do all this other weird stuff now, but that's what I'm used to, and that's what I like, and so
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, if it
I
works for you.
definitely
'Cause I watched a few of your fights. I like your style because you in the beginning you were like more real aggressive. You just came at the girl like you trying
right,
like trying to knock her head off. So,
yeah,
but as time went on, it was nice because to me you started to realize certain things you need to do to make to to better yourself, not your opponent. You didn't care about her, but you do certain things for yourself to make the fight better for you. And I said, man, yeah, because my thing is I'm saying, well, what do they teach you in bare knuckle boxing that to me a street fighter wouldn't do? But
right,
but you can't kick, so still you can't bite, you can't kick, so that leaves that part out. So that makes it a little bit harder for you because you can't use those things in a bare knuckle fight.
right.
But
Yeah, there are some things, I think of it, I always really looked at it as just boxing with no
yeah,
gloves. And I really like thought of it that way but there are things that are different like the clinch and stuff.
yeah,
But man, I kind of in boxing, that's a little bit like dirty boxing. I kind of naturally clinched and held in boxing the other girls probably didn't like so much. So it was easy for me to transition in it. But I do think and really believe again in movement and angles, which I love in boxing. Like when
yeah,
I watch boxers, like I mean Mike Tyson's really cool and super dangerous, but he was never a fighter where I like knocked my socks off. Like I love like the fighters that were like whoop whoop miss me and like faint and like dancing around the ring and like Bud, like those fighters were really always the fighters that I just
yeah,
was like whoa, fell in love with watching on TV. So my style in the beginning, I had to do that. Like I didn't
yeah,
really know how to dance around and have head movement and
yeah,
bob and weave, but I wanted to. So I always worked on it, and it was cool because I think that's why so many boxing coaches loved me
yeah,
and worked with me because they were like, well, we know Britain, if she doesn't do plan A or B, we'll just be like, all right, just bring the dog out and that will work, but
yeah,
if we can do it without that, let's, why not? Because again, we don't, it's not necessarily a tough man's sport. Like I have children, I have family, and I have myself. Like
yeah,
even just man, every person out there, it doesn't matter if you don't like we still have to answer to ourselves at 50 and 60 years old, and I don't want to be lost in my thoughts or
yeah, exactly.
confused and depressed and super dark or not being able to go to the bathroom. And so I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
really take pride in not getting damaged anymore.
No, no,
I had to in the beginning, and that's life. Like sometimes we do have to take those hard hits, but it doesn't mean that we have to take them for the rest of our lives. And so,
no, you're right.
yeah,
No, no, you're right about that. No, I tell most people because I was a defensive fighter myself. That was my biggest thing. People say, man, you like getting hit. I said, no, you like getting hit. I said, you must be crazy.
right,
I said, movie here. So when I teach my fighters, they all say, man, you show me a lot of defense. I said, yeah. I said, once you be able to come out of boxing with all your faculties. I said, I'll be 63 this month. I said, I can still walk and talk, man. I said, a lot of my friends, they can't do that. You know, when you talk to them, like, I'm not gonna mention name, but one of my friends, he's a big time fighter. It was his birthday, so when I called him for his birthday, and the whole conversation for me was, what, what'd you say? You know, because I couldn't understand what he was saying. So I went, I wished him a happy birthday, and said, I'm gonna let you go. You know, and I told people, I want you to be like that. So for my thing is, I teach defense. I stress that to everybody that I work with. You know, before you do anything, let's get some defense in your life. Before you do anything else, let's get some defense in your life.
Yep. And I always was like, really, again, in my beginning time was like, anybody can do it and you've got this and
Yeah,
let's go. And it's not that hard. And my coach would be like, no, this ain't for you, motherfucker. You suck. Go home. You ain't into this shit. And I'd be like, dude, why are you doing that? Like, you're
yeah,
being so mean. And he was like, Britton, my job as a coach is to make them hate this and like not want to be here, because the ones
uh,
that stay, that means they really want this, because you have to be something special to go in here and be able to do this. And the people that are coming in that you're telling, oh, you got this and keep trying, if they're not willing to like really go through the steps and really want it, they're just going to waste my time. They're going to get hurt. They're not going to take it serious, this and that. And even though that might be a like really harsh way to approach it, I really started to see it and get that, like, wow, like, not just being like, yeah, go in there and try sparring on your first week in the gym. It's like, no, like go through and make sure you can defend yourself and protect yourself before we just throw you in there and say you'll learn eventually. It's like more of an old
oof,
mentality. But I do think there's a time and place for all of that, but it is really
yeah,
interesting to see how people like coaches, more so boxing coaches,
yeah,
how they really do. You would think that they would be the guys that be like, no, go in there, we don't care if it hurts. And I've been finding more and more that boxing coaches are like you, like,
yeah,
no, we work on defense first, defense first. Oh
yeah,
no, you want to love the gym, I'm going to make you hate it, because if you're here, I know you really really want it. And just practices like that, where I've been in gyms before where you could only spar on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you were caught in that ring sparring,
yeah.
and it wasn't
Oof,
Tuesday and Thursday, your ass was thrown out of the gym. And so that's kind of cool to see those gyms out there like that. Cause
yeah.
I've equally been in gyms that I saw this guy like, dude, the guy busted him and he was bleeding, and his coach was like, the bell ain't over yet. The bell ain't over yet.
Oof.
Get your ass up. And I'm like, dude, his nose is most definitely broken. And the guy would knock him down again. I'm like, what good? Why would you do that to your fighter? Because
Yeah,
he's gonna go home and his nose is gonna be broken. His like
yeah,
pride and ego severely damaged. And even if it wasn't, he can't physically come in the gym and spar for another 6 weeks because he's injured. So you just ruined a whole fighter there by telling him to constantly get up when you knew like it was just practice.
yeah. Well, I tell the problem with today's trainers, and I'm not trying to badmouth them or dog them out, but in my era and before my time, you had guys, say like myself, that were former fighters. We'd go in the gym and we'd train. A lot of fighters from the 90s, let's say 2010, and they don't want to train fighters anymore. So a lot of guys that know boxing no longer want to participate and teach the boxing. So you get guys off the streets that really never fought in their lives. Now they're trainers, so they think, but they're not teaching properly how to be a fighter. So one of my problems with today's fighters are fighters from yesterday don't get in the gym and help the kids that need the work that they were given when they were kids. They don't want to
Mhm.
train these guys. So you get a guy off the streets who may not know boxing, he wants to do it. He's teaching these kids, but he's teaching them the wrong way. They're not being taught properly how to fight, how to move your head, how to block a shot, how to roll, how to fire back when you make a guy miss. And I'm not saying everybody does. I'm just saying a lot of coaches that do that. And I commend them for trying and help these kids, get off the streets and do their thing. But for me, if a lot of fighters would get off their butts and get in the gym and help these kids that know how to fight, it'd be a whole lot better for these kids in boxing today. Because if you watch, even in professional boxing, a lot of guys that call each other out, they do it on social media. That's how they make these fights. It's like the person that's below you, you don't have to fight her. You go call somebody else out and fight them. And they're still just waiting to get their title shot or get their shot at you. And it never happens because guys today are making fights with each other through the
Right.
media. and it's terrible, because the best don't fight the best anymore, and the guy and the trainers, so-called teachers, they can't teach something that they never have done, so it makes it bad because they're teaching these guys that can't fight how to fight, and they can't, and it makes it worse because
Right.
how can I teach you how to fight if I never fight? I can't tell you how it feels in round 10, round 15, round 12, what to do when you're tired or something's happening to you because I never experienced that. And that's the thing that I see that's bad with boxing today is that the guy that used to fight no longer want to teach these young kids how to fight properly. And it makes it bad.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was just talking about that with someone actually, where it's just mind blowing that combat sports is the only sport that has faltered and fell so bad to where the best don't fight the best. It's like it doesn't even matter. Like, why do you even care about being ranked one, two, or three? Because you might not ever fight each other or see each other, and that's just blows.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that it get like just overlooked so easily nowadays. But
Yeah. So quick question for you. In your sport, in the bare knuckle. So do you have a sanctioning body that governs everything for you guys? Is that like who?
Yeah, yes and no. I would say, you know what? I should know better, but I do know like there's a bare knuckle Hall of Fame and bare knuckle USA that like really keeps up with all like the history books and like the like stats and pound for pound stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's in Belfast, New York. I'm pretty sure they're like the main governing body of bare knuckle, and they do all the bare knuckle unities. But I do think that them and BKFC kind of butt heads, but they still have to honor that because it is the sport. It's you can't leave a promotion out because it's the sport in its
Yeah.
whole. So that's what leads me to say that it's them. But I do know that bare knuckle is treated very serious, like with the sport commission, the boxing commission in any state. So they're always there, and bare knuckle has to go through some really like strict testing and like
Yeah.
protocols and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I feel like that wouldn't be there if there wasn't like a really strong governing body, but I'm actually really not that familiar, weirdly enough. But I just think I've just been again, I've been doing too much, but I feel like the Knuckletown USA is really like the overseer of all of that in
Mm.
terms of like stats and like history wise.
So it's,
Um,
so it's only like one sanctioned body then that you know of for bare knuckle.
Y- Yeah, I don't because it's like you could go on a box rec, right? Like we
Right.
went all there as boxers, and it didn't matter what promotion you fought for, your fights were all listed there.
Yeah.
So bare knuckle is the same way, it doesn't matter. Like they have a little column that's just like boxing, and it doesn't matter if you fought in bare knuckle or BYB or Valor or whatever bare knuckle organization, it will be
Okay.
under there. So I feel like yes, there has to be, but I'm not really quite sure how that works
You
out.
may
But
you may have answered my question for me. So there's more than just one bare knuckle association then in bare knuckle. Okay, so then
right.
they're pretty much like they're like boxing. And I hate to say it this way. Boxing has become so saturated with all these sanctioned bodies that it makes it bad for the sport because
Yes.
the sanctioning bodies, they don't, and I hate to say it this way, but they don't really care about the fighters, period, because they don't listen. All they want is the money. All they want is you to fight somebody so that they can get their fee to say you're their champion. And you say in your division, you might have like three or four females that are all so-called champions in your weight division. You're the interim champion, the champion in recess. It's like it's all bullcrap because all they want is that sanctioning fee.
Right.
You know, I,
Exactly.
you know.
Yes, no, I'm familiar with that. It was crazy. Like I think Bud was just one of those that did that. Like he said that they wanted him to pay
Yes,
thirty thousand
yeah,
dollars.
yeah, WBC, yeah, for what?
Yeah, and he was like, "Fuck you guys, you can have your belt back." Like I worked hard and risked my life in that ring, and you guys want to take 30 G's from me just to have it? Like that, it should be like I just don't get that. Like fighters are the least celebrated, but weirdly most. I don't know. It's just so weird in that aspect. It's like they're celebrated by people that just like on the streets, like that are like spiritual and
Yeah,
figuratively, but their promotion wants to use them. They're not humans to them. They're just dollar signs. They don't want to market them. Then they want to own them for the rest of their life or property. These belts and sanctioning bodies want to just take a percentage of their purse and
yeah,
take more
yeah,
money. They
yeah,
don't care. You know, I had this one guy, he told me, he's like, "Oh, for one of your fights, you can get a belt." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's cool." And he's like, "Yeah, all you have to do is pay me $800." And I was like, "Whoa, wait, what? What? What?" Like, I'm only getting $1,200 for this fight. Like, like I'm gonna get like give you most of it and only
yeah,
come home with $400, and I'm already like you know, again,
yeah, yeah.
I've lived a very poor life. Like, what? No, I don't know. I want it. And they're like, "Oh, but it's the belt and it's IB, blah blah blah." And I'm like, I don't really care. Like,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
costs $800. And he's like, "Well, we'll just ask the promoter. The promoter will probably split it with you."
No,
And so I'm like,
no.
okay. And yeah, I learned the hard way. I go up and ask the promoter, and you want to pay $800 for this belt? He's like, "Get the fuck out of here!" No, I'm trying to make money on my show. I'm already breaking even. I'm like, oh man, this
Yeah.
world, this sport, like soccer never did this.
Well, here's the crazy thing that I tell people. If you think about it, boxing is the only sport that's not saying it's not regulated. It's
Right,
not, football, basketball, baseball, soccer. They're all regulated. You got one commissioner. Each team has a coach, has an owner. But listen, you only got one commissioner, and you
right,
answer to him. He lays the law down. Boxing, you don't have to do that. You got the WBC president, you got the WBA president, the IBF. You got all these different presidents that you have to answer to.
right.
And who do they answer to? Nobody. So
Yep.
they steal every chance they get. So it's unfortunate. And even though I was a boxer, I loved it. And I don't love it like I used to. It's just bad the way they treat these fighters nowadays. They, like you said, they want an arm and a leg plus their purse. It's like, damn,
Yep.
can I eat a little bit? Give me some money so I can eat myself. You know.
Yeah.
So
And they
so so,
don't
so
realize we're
yeah.
paying 10% to our manager. We're paying 10% to our boxing coach. The fight camps are so hard. Our families are struggling with us with it. And then, depending if and most fighters were like, we got something like there are is a little bit of something darkness wise going on, or an issue that, we keep hidden from the world that we have to deal with in silent. And it's like, man, you got to keep that in check. And then the taxes is 22% on all our purses. So by the end of it, really, unless you know how to like financial loophole and do shit, you're already losing 40-50% of your purse from the get-go. And when we're talking about like $4,000 $5,000 purses for
Yeah.
2 months, for 2 months worth of work. People think, "Oh, I wish I could make $5,000 in one night." It's like, no, it wasn't $5,000 in one night. It took 2 months to do that and put those hours in to get that $5,000. Oh, and by the way, 2,500 went out to everybody else. Oh, and so would you like to have a job where you make $1,000 a month? Like $12,000 a year salary? Let's see you do it. You got to
Yeah.
really love it and be in it. And that's what, was really cool, at least about fighters that, in that era. And then the social influencers and the TikTokers came in, and I really did. I try to see it in a positive light. It will open the doors for fighters and boxers. And it really did, it really kind of made him worse and messed it up. Now the pay, I've seen the pay go, like, I really did. I tried to be really nice to these guys. And especially the ones that work hard, because they do. There are a lot that work really hard. But just because you work really hard doesn't mean you have it, and that you should surplus someone who's given 8 years of their life or longer to training and studying real boxing and fighting, or their sport or their craft every day. But those people are getting less and less money now. Like, I've seen it go from 5,000 purses starting off to 2,000 starting off to now 1,000 starting off, and it's just like, whoa.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah. You have to love the sport to do that to a degree. It's
Yeah, yeah.
so what's on the horizon for you next as fare as bare knuckle? I
So
know you
again,
want that one girl, but I don't know if she wants you. So you have to look
yeah.
other places.
Yeah, well, she's been barking. That's what's so freaking crazy. But she's definitely been barking. So I definitely want that girl. So I'm gunning for that girl. I'm messaging these guys every day, like, yo, do
Yeah.
we got an answer yet? And so I got a text message today that I'll know for sure by the end of the night. But I've heard that like 20 times in my I've heard that 20 times this year from, so, we'll just keep praying that God is good and that they just guide their little text message that they're gonna send me my contract. So let's go and hope
Yeah.
on that. But I do hope I'm really looking at July 3rd in
Okay.
Philadelphia. I used to live
Mm.
there
I
and
said Philadelphia.
train.
Yeah, that's a good place.
Yeah. And the boxing world, man, I'll be here
Whew.
for another hour telling you about the
Yeah.
boxing world
In
in
Philadelphia.
Philly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to go back there. The last time I fought there, I got a draw. So this would be a nice little, again,
Yeah.
improvement. So
Yeah.
really looking forward to that. And in the meantime, though, I have been doing a lot of extra things.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not,
you got to hustle and
I'm,
make your money. You got to hustle and do other things. You got to make it work.
yeah,
Yeah. I can't
for
knock you for that. I can't knock you for that. You got to do your thing.
thank you. So yeah, but that's it. But trying to really lock in, it's been a while now, so I'm a little bit, again, we all, and I'm sure you absolutely get it. And every fighter out there, like, all right, I'm done. And then it's like we've heard that before. A couple months go by, and you're like, I don't know anything else. I have no other identity. So
Well, I'll
I'm,
tell you what. I'm gonna give you one. Say this, I'm gonna cut you off. I'm gonna give you one. When I decided to retire, this is back in 2000. I just said I'm done. The guys wouldn't fight me because of my style. A lot of guys wouldn't fight me, so I would get phone calls, and my wife she looked at me like I was crazy. I would get phone calls for like they want to give me a fight for 50,000 on a 1 week notice, and I said no. I can beat you.
good for you.
I can beat your fighter, but I need more time. And so my wife she said, John, what's wrong with you? We need that money. I said, listen, I understand we need the money. I said, but I want you to fast forward my life to maybe 20 years from now. I said, will I be able to talk to you the way I talk to you now? I said, probably not, because they want me to fight these guys on short notice. I'm not in shape. The money sounds great, but the money's gonna leave real quick. You got bills, you want to buy a bigger house, all that, you got kids. So I turned down a lot of fights. I turned down roughly about 7 or 8 fights for big, good, decent money. And she could understand that. I said, so fast forward to today. I always ask her, aren't you glad that I didn't take those fights? She said,
Yeah.
yeah. I said, I can still talk to you. I can still walk. I said, I got all my faculties that I know of. And she said, no,
Yep.
she said, no, you were right. I said, money sometimes it sounds great, but for the beatings you might take, I said, think about this. They call you on short notice, like a week's notice. They know you're
Yep.
not ready for the fight. So they make it sound good to you to get this offer, but I said, the money doesn't always last if you don't take care of it properly. And I said that we wouldn't. I said, you have to think about your brain and later on in life, what's going to happen to you. I said, for me, I just rather not go down that route because a lot of my friends, even back then, were starting to show signs of dementia and they couldn't speak and talk properly. And I said, so the money doesn't really bother me. I said, I love to have it, but I'd rather be able to have life and be able to live out my years and see my kids grow up and not having them take care of me because they'd probably be pissed off they got to take care of me. So, you
Yeah,
know,
no, you're right. And that's super inspiring to hear because I do know that I've gotten, that advice. And I think that where I was in the beginning, I was
yeah.
taking the 1 week, 2 week, 4 day notice fights that they just expect that I'll
Yeah,
always be
yeah.
that Britain's. But I recently just started like, someone really, it was being a champ. They're like, champions don't take fights on 2 weeks notice. That's not champion behavior. Like champions are prepare and get ready. And they're, it's not even just about physical. It's about preparing your family for it, telling your sponsors, getting people off travel plans. Like you want to be a champion, you got to act like it, and your organization should respect you enough to give you at least 2 months notice. But you know, it is one thing that I'm growing and trying to especially the last 2 years is really. see it the way you do. Like
Yeah,
money is not the be all end all,
yeah,
and there's so many things that are important to that, to just not sit there and say and jump into something because, and even loving something, like, they say the things you love the most will destroy you. And you love, some fighters love
sometimes, yeah,
fighting, they love fighting and boxing so much that they don't care that it's a 1 week notice, they don't care that they're out of shape, they don't
yeah,
care that there's two, weight class difference, they just
yes,
don't. We
yeah,
all know it. We see fighters that do that all the time. They're like, oh yeah, I'm fighting this guy, I'm going up in 2 weight classes, and you're like, why? Well, they said they give me extra money for it and da 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 da. Da. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're exactly right. So be mindful of that. And I don't know, this conversation's definitely have my gears moving in the fact where you said,
Well,
going and having a coaches clinic, like to these places where they are coaching kids, but thank God they're getting them off the street, and that's the first step. But
yeah,
they don't really know what they're doing. And so I remember I did some work with that and helped. And it, yeah, there's a lot of things for us to do outside of just performing in the ring
yeah,
that can help maybe just rehab this sport and put it
yeah,
back to what it
yeah.
used to be.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I had the pleasure once I found out that we were interviewing you last night of watching your fights, and I'll tell you honestly, as you begin to progress more in the game, so did your skill level. And I said,
Thank
"She,"
you.
because I mean, you came out in the beginning. You were just firing shots.
Yeah.
you were just going for it. You were just going for it. It's either me or you. You were like
Yeah.
trying to tear these girls up. And I said, oof. But as I watch it, as your career went on, you started to become, up here, you became very smart in what you were doing. And I said, okay, now she's understanding the game. I don't know if you got hit with a good shot. You said, okay, I better back up a little bit and learn some more about this game or whatever it was. I was impressed because you took time to say, okay, let me not get hit so much. Let me learn this game a little bit and learn what I'm doing here so I can take these girls to school a little bit. So I was real. I said, well, okay, she learned as she went on, and I was impressed with that. I said, man, okay, because I don't see him. To me, honest, I don't see a lot of professional, not even women. I'm just talking about male bare knuckle fighters. They don't really try to learn much. They just go out and try to hurt each other and do what they can and get the money, I guess. But I don't see too many really trying to learn how to survive in this sport.
Right.
The more you survive, the more you can make money, and then you can maybe get on out and have a better life. But these cats, the males, let me say this: I train female. I train Clarissa Shields. She's the female boxer. She's the best one. All the females I train, I never had a problem with any of them. The male fighters, they all want to argue and man, I can't do this, I can't do that. I said, try it. Every female that I've ever trained, I love them because they listen to me. And whatever I ask them to try, I say, you don't have to do it, just try it for me. If it works for you,
Mhm.
we do it. If it doesn't, we throw it away. They at least
Right.
try. They at least try for me. I had some of my champions tell me from day one, "Oh, I can't do that move. You didn't even try it yet.
Right.
You know." But the females, I love them because you guys, you at least listen and you try. And you guys are listen. I've seen some of my females in the gym sparring. They try to kill each other. I said, you guys say you're friends, and they're trying to kill each other in the sparring session. I said, Jesus Christ, the females to me fight with more heart, more compassion to prove they're the best than the male fighters.
Yeah.
You guys give draw. I got to give you credit for that. And all my male fighters get mad at me when I said no. I'm just being honest. The
Right.
females they come to fight. They trying to prove me, listen, I'm the best.
Yep, I absolutely agree, and I've been seeing it in really every little art that there is, and I don't think it's died down yet. I think someone a couple days ago, well, not a couple days, but like a couple weeks, they were like, "Yeah, women fighting isn't as exciting anymore," and they're like thinking about doing away with like the 115 division. And I was like, "What?" Like, that's not true in any,
Yeah,
I've not seen. Now it's so crazy because there are like, just like male fights,
yeah,
there is every once in a while a bad female fight, but very rare is there a bad
yeah,
female fight. But there are a couple of them, but it doesn't mean that all women fighting is like less exciting because there was one bad fight. On the overall, and the overall view,
yeah,
women fighting is still, I think, way more exciting, and
yeah.
they still have a lot to prove. And there's a lot of like, I love watching like the press conferences now with women, like they're speaking up more and they're getting into it. They're quite
Yeah.
entertaining. Some of the stuff I'm like, whoa, where before that was frowned upon, but it's been
Yeah.
exciting. It's been an exciting, definitely wildly evolving, rapidly changing
Yeah.
world of combat sports for
You know what?
sure.
It's good when you can let your true feelings go. Hey, listen, if I'm gonna fight you and we have a little animosity, I'm gonna let it go because why not? I'm telling you how I truly feel about you. So come fight night. I want to prove to the world I'm the best. And if you know if I get out of line and say a few things I shouldn't say, guess what? Beat me up at that night and prove that I'm wrong. That's all.
Right.
You know. Yeah, but if I bite you, then you have a problem. But you know, I'm not gonna bite you. So
Right,
Brittany,
right.
yeah. So Brittany's been wonderful. Okay, this one of your fights right here.
Yeah, but
Is that a boxing match?
this isn't yeah, this is actually boxing, and this was not the smartest thing that I ever did either. But whatever, I loved it because this girl is really good. But I did this on 2 weeks notice.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. Who's the best? I guess in boxing, the best female that you fought in your estimation. Who's the best female that you fought?
Oh, in boxing or
Yeah,
in
that
bare
made you. They
knuckle?
made, no, men on boxing that made you say, "Ooh, gosh, I shouldn't be in the ring with you tonight." You know, is there ever a girl that you boxed, you know, that she was better than you, or just naturally better than
Oh. I fought Alicia Baumgartner,
you?
and you know, that fight was at 135, and I
Yeah.
walked around like 120. I had to put like water bottles in my
Oh my
pants. Like
goodness.
I lived through that era. Like yeah, to make weight. I remember thinking, oh, it's not that bad. Look at this girl,
Yeah.
because it was my third fight ever, and she was all like, I was like, oh, she looks smaller than me, you know,
Hmm.
because she. And I put these water bottles in my sweatpants and got on the scale. And the next day I was like, oh my fucking God, that girl, look, that's the same girl from the other day. She was huge,
Yeah.
giant.
She put that
Elise,
weight back on. Yeah.
yeah, and she's a muscular jack girl. And so, anyways, I don't even want to talk again about that night,
Yeah.
but that's
Don't worry
a
about
story from a different time. But it definitely did not go my way, but it was a bunch of a lot of bad things. Like talk about traumatic. It
it.
was super
Yeah.
traumatic. But you know, my coach that I had at the time threw my bag out in the road and said, "Oh, you're stressed out. Go find someone else to fucking corner you." And I
Yeah.
walked in at the time. I was like, I
Mm.
didn't understand really like what the combat sports world was, and I was like, "Look, I put my signature on a piece of paper that I would fight your girl. My corner just threw me outside. I'm here though, so like if you want to give me a coach that can help me so I can make this fight happen for you." And
Mm.
they were like, "Oh my God, you poor girl." They're like so mad. And here it is now. I realize that I could have just said, "No, I don't want to fight," and walked out. I'm thinking, they're like, if
Man.
you do that, you know, my manager said, if you do that, you'll be suspended indefinitely. They'll never let you come back. Yeah, here's a better one. This was an actual training camp. That was actually a 6 week training camp and not 2 week notice
So let
with
me ask you a
me.
question. I'm just curious. So in a bare knuckle fight, did your hands ever like were they just like sore to the point where you really want to hit that girl again? I'm
Yeah,
just curious. It's like, yeah.
definitely. I think like in the third round, I remember looking at my hands, just shaking them off and being like, just knock it. Like, dude, girl, go down. Like, stay down, quit, because you're already not winning. Or just knock her out, Britain, because it hurts. It's painful. But yeah, I've always been weirdly enough, though, the next day. Like, no matter how bad my hands have been, they've been swollen and puffy. The next day, it's like almost completely gone. And I'm
Mm.
like, whoa, that's weird. But, you know, again, I had a really weird upbringing where we punched a lot of things. And then
Well,
I had a really abusive young adult life and we punched a lot of things. So maybe my hands are just like weirdly conditioned over life. But I have broken my hand twice out of, you know, I have 13 bare knuckle fights. Well, I
mm.
didn't break. I broke a finger. So I went to go parry a punch and my finger snapped. And I remember that happening. And I was like, oh man. And then in that fight that you just showed, that clip, I broke my second metacarpal, snapped it in half. And I think it's because I threw the hook like this instead of
Mm.
thumb up. I threw it like that and it took all
Oof.
the impact, but
Yeah, yeah.
it broke that thing in half. But you know, when you think about it statistically wise, I guess, you know, one clear time because your finger breaking isn't like that big of a deal, but your hand breaking is a big deal for sure. But out of 13 fights, only one time did it break.
Mm.
But and it was so unavoidable. I could have totally not broke it. It was so stupid. I knocked this girl's tooth out, and then I was
Oof.
piecing her up, and I really wanted to knock out. Like I want to knock out more than
Oof.
anything. And so I loaded up. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just been happy with my win. I should have been happy with my little picking her apart, bing, bing, bung, bung, and it just kept with that. But I got happy and I went boom and I
Yeah.
loaded up and I broke my hand. And,
Yes.
it is what it is, but we learned something from it.
That's
And,
what you learn.
not to do, not to do that. Should be happy with the win.
So for you, was it better for you to go to the body or go to the head? Because 'cause you threw a lot of body shots, which is good. Listen, that's a good strategy. But was it easy for your hands to go to the body as it was opposed to go to that hard skull they have?
For sure, but the only thing like that's worrisome about body shots and why people don't go to the body enough in boxing or bare knuckle boxing, that's for sure. But and I know so many people that can eat face like gosh, like headshots, they can just eat it and keep going. But the body shots are definitely easier and I like it better for the hands. The only thing is it's a real good way to catch an elbow, and
Mm,
when that elbow comes down, like if you go to,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, eat a rib shot or something like that, and they bring in their elbow, and if that timing is just right, where it goes down on the top of your hand or forearm, ooh, it does not feel good. It hurts pretty bad. And so sometimes I'm hesitant about throwing to the body if I see someone have a really tight elbow defense where they can just shuck it down. But a lot of MMA fighters are more loosey goosey. It's really not that big of a deal. But it's just something to watch for and be cautious. And
Yeah.
normally my experience is the better the fighter is,
Yeah.
the more chances of that elbow coming down on top of your hand.
Oof. Yeah.
But
I've had
if
that a
it,
few times in boxing.
yeah.
Happened.
Yeah, and it happened in boxing
And
too.
I had
So
gloves
just
on, so
yep, and
still
it still
hurts.
hurts.
Still,
Yeah.
it still
E-
hurts.
Exactly. Well, it hurts really bad in bare knuckles. So I'm like, oh hell no.
Oof.
You catch one elbow one time, and you're like, yeah, I will never go back to the body again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, Brittany, it's been wonderful talking to you. I appreciate it. Just before we go, is it like any social media outlets that you want that people can follow you on, or
Yeah, I have some awesome, exciting news. It's coming. I'm telling you guys, just bear with me. I know that it seems like I've been kind of inactive, but I just don't want to be posting bullshit
no?
just to
Yeah,
post.
no,
Like
no, not posting,
I don't
but
want to be
just
that girl, but I'm
where they
I'm
can
I'm
follow, where they can
here.
follow you at. Maybe
Yeah,
Instagram or WhatsApp.
yeah. No, us as fighters, that's why I asked before, but for fighters, we have to compete in this social media influencer world, and the more followers we have, the better it literally helps us. So, if you like something I said in this interview, or man, it's cost you nothing to go give me a follow at Team Britain Hart in Instagram, just follow and add me on there. It would mean so much to me and help me push me in the right way. Again, you can if you don't even like the stuff I see, you can follow someone and push hide notifications or hide what, the content they post. But hey, it helps. Like you
Yeah.
guys, if you know someone, a small business, artist, one of these like things that's a little bit harder out here for us, go ahead and give us a follow. Team Britain Hart. I love my team that I work with right now. Shout out to them. They are like my shining bright light in every aspect of my personal and professional life. So I love my team. Team Carnivore Muscle Meds. We've been together for a while and really has been my credit for my transformation and why you guys should be following to see what's coming up because I haven't fought bare knuckle in for a year. And I tell you what, I have been moving quite dangerously in the silence, in the shadows, and I have a whole nother skill set to show you guys. So let's stay tuned. Follow me there. This has been really awesome. Really love talking about this. It's definitely my passion, and to
Yes.
be with someone who's been through it and seen the change, and
Yeah.
not only in me but in the world is really awesome. So thank you, Coach.
No, my pleasure. Anytime. Hey, listen, in the future, I want to do a different segment And I'd love to have you back on the show.
I would love that too. I know, like it just went by. It feels like we've been on here like 15 minutes. So
All right. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time and just all your knowledge you've given us. I appreciate it.
thank you. And I see you
Right.
guys got Fight Wax on there. So big shout out to Fight
There you
Wax.
go. There you
Guys,
go.
go to, they're gonna replace Vaseline in the boxing combat sport world,
There
and
you
then
go.
be. And if we go out and celebrate our wins, drink drops, look for them too. That's a new product that's gonna come out that's gonna keep us healthy and fit
There
and
you
feeling
go.
our best.
There you
So
go.
thank
Appreciate
you
it, champ.
again.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, you have a
Take care
good
of yourself.
one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I called in sick to work for a radio station's birthday party. Before you judge me, hear me out. GC Radio Hub is turning 2, and they're not just any radio station. They connect the real world with gaming worlds like OpenSims, IMVU, 5M, Second Life, and GTA, to just name a few. The 3-day streaming party they are throwing is the most insane anniversary party ever. I'm obsessed with their old school hip hop and R&B, Southern soul, Afro beats, gospel, jazz, and comedy shows. So when they said birthday explosion party, I called in sick. My boss thinks I have food poisoning, but I'm here vibing with the coolest people in radio. Check out some of the line. It's totally worth it. Day 26, Force MD's Lenny Williams, Raspberry Sky, Chocolate Tie, Stacey Adams, Levered Experience, Karen White, Troop Surface, the East Side Boys, and many more to come. If you're into music, check out gcradiohub.com. Once you find your people, everything else can wait. The only way to stay connected is to get connected with GC Radio.